Quebec is annoyed, and that battle between the very public battle between and Ottawa on immigration continues. Now, following disputes in recent memory, one's over Roxham Road, one's over visas for Mexican travelers. This week, the battle is over family unification. And there is a battle brewing between Quebec and Ottawa over that as well. With more, let's go to Quebec's immigration minister, Christine Fréchette. Madame Fréchette, welcome to the program. Let's start off with the family unification dossier. There is right now a backlog of 40,000 files here in Quebec. So I want to start off by asking you, because the CAQ has been in power now for 6 years, almost 6 years. So what mistakes have been made over the last 6 years to lead us to a backlog of 40,000 files?
In fact, we've seen an important increase in the number of demands for family reunification during the last years. And the number of family reunifications that are admitted following our multi-year plan has remained more or less the same. That is to say, around 10,000 dossiers, 10,000 people being admitted for family reunification per year. And so this is part of the issue that we are in front of. And also, we've seen that there are some principle, the principle of first arrived, first served, that is not necessarily being respected when it comes to the federal government. So the treatment is not necessarily equal between the different people. So that may increase the level of delay when it comes to family reunification. But of course, the increase in the volume of demands for family reunification is an important part. And also, I must say that on our side, we have delivered quite quickly a certain number of CSQs, maybe too quickly. And that is the main message that is sent by Ottawa when it comes to family reunification. When we saw the letter of Minister Miller for the first time, we thought we were not exactly sure of what they meant for certain parts of the letter. So we've discussed with his team, his cabinet team. Yesterday, we had a good chat with them and just to clear exactly the message. And what they are asking us is to reduce the number of CSQs that are delivered annually, and in order to be more correspondent to what is to the number of people that are admitted for that category of permanent immigration.
So, but does that mean that over the last few years, your government gave out far too many of these Quebec selection certificates, the CSQ? Did you give out too many of them over the last few years? Was that the mistake?
I think we could have managed the situation differently. We could have reduced the number of CSQs that are delivered. This is something we can work on. The federal government would like to see that, put in place a reduction of the number of CSQs delivered. And if the federal government respects our immigration targets, this is something we can work on.
What do you think?
This is non-negotiable, the respect of the immigration plan we have adopted last November, because Quebec alone determines its own permanent immigration target. So this is non-negotiable, but when we discussed with the cabinet of Minister Miller yesterday, we understood that they intend to respect our permanent immigration targets, but they would like us to reduce the number of CSQs being delivered for family reunification. That is something we can work on.
It seems like on matters of immigration, the argument has been so public, whether it's Roxham Road or it's visas for people coming from Mexico or now family unification. I see a lot of public spats. I see a lot of public statements, and I just want to know, why has this issue why does it feel like it's being fought in public and not behind closed doors in boardrooms?
Well, for example, last week, 2 weeks ago, when we organized a press conference with some of our colleagues, we did so because we wanted to put some images on the idea of our welcoming capacity being reached. So we discussed about what it means in the education system, for example, to have as many asylum seekers as we've had during the last years. And we did the same thing with the last resort financial help. And that is to explain to people what is going on. And that doesn't mean that we don't discuss with the federal government, that we are not having meetings and discussions. Should it be at the political level or the administrative level? But of course, immigration has become a very sensitive issue. And I think it will remain so for the next years.
I'll say it has been. It's a sensitive issue across the country. You've seen what's happening. Whether it's Ontario or British Columbia, that people are having these same types of debates. Just on the family reunification front, the thing that I find curious is, and we got stories from our listeners in the last half hour telling us, I want to bring my wife. Or my wife wants to bring her son to the country. Oh, and or other stories of one listener called us and says their son is no longer living in Quebec because they want to be with their spouse. They used to be working in Quebec, good job, paying taxes here. Now they're out in another country getting paid as a contractor. Quebec sees no tax income over this whole thing, right? So what do you say to the families who just want their son or their daughter or their spouse to be with them in this province paying taxes, and they feel like there's barrier after barrier and it doesn't make sense to them?
We are very sensitive to the situation of families waiting for family reunification, and we're working on possible solutions. There's a group in Quebec called Quebec Réunifié, and they are, in a certain way, the voice of the family reunification people who are waiting for an admission for their son or their wife or their spouse. And so we've met, my cabinet has met with them last December, and we have discussed possible adjustments within our threshold for permanent immigration. And we are going to meet them again in the coming weeks. So we are very sensitive of the families waiting for a decision to be taken. And I've received many testimonials, and I can understand the situation our decisions can create. I know it can increase the level of anxiety and difficulties that people are meeting, but we are working on possible solutions. We are looking at it, and as you know, it is a ministry that is managed with the federal government. So we need certain level of negotiation with the federal if something has to be changed. But we are looking at it, some possible adjustments.
We're with Quebec's Immigration Minister, Christine Fréchette. We're talking about family reunifications and other issues related to immigration. Madame Fréchette, I want to say thank you for coming on CJD. It's not often that we get a cabinet minister from this government to come on. There are exceptions. Jean Boulet, he always comes on. Christopher Skeet always comes on, and then nobody else really says yes to our invitation. So I want to thank you first and foremost. I do want to talk.
Thanks to you for the invitation.
Well, it's our pleasure. And I do just want to touch on language briefly here, because obviously you're on CJD, and for our listeners, this Anglophone community that has been here for centuries, it always comes up on this front. I know your government has been laser focused on language, right? Your government has said, hey, McGill students, they're talking too much English on the streets, right? We've heard that from your government. So I know it comes up in everything. On this front, on family reunification, is there also worry that family reunification contributes to an anglicization? Is that part of this hold up and hang up on the backlog?
In fact, we've developed a new approach when it comes to family reunification and the language, the French language. Last November, we have tabled a multi-year plan for permanent immigration. And in that multi-year plan, there is a new decision that is being explained. That is people who are how would you say parrainer un parent, someone who takes care of someone who will
a caregiver.
Will be coming, a caregiver, who will be coming to Quebec in order to immigrate. They will have to demonstrate that there is an intention to learn French language in the coming years. So this is a novelty in the sense that it didn't exist before. But we've seen a decline of the use of French, especially in Greater Montreal. And so we've decided that it was necessary to take actions, among other things, in the immigration program. Not only, of course, but immigration is part of it. It's part of the matters that do influence the evolution of French language. Mm-hmm. And so we've decided to ask the people who are helping someone to come to Quebec in order to immigrate through family reunification to describe what kind of program they will be taking in order to learn French. That is the novelty.
Can I ask you how much room you feel can be given for Anglophones, for English speakers to come to Quebec? And the reason I ask that is, just like Francophones, Anglos aren't having enough babies, right? This is a thing. Our birth rate is very low, English and French in this province. And I know from English speakers, they kind of feel, hey, we also need a rejuvenation at times in our numbers. We're going to need immigration because Anglophones have been here for centuries, right? So in your opinion, how much space overall should the Anglophone community get with respect to immigration?
In fact, it depends on the future of French language, because we've taken these actions because we've seen a decline in public space, in workspace, a decline of the use of French. And so we want to stop that decline, and we want to make sure that the French language will actually increase in the coming years. And so we've seen for the English language that we're not facing a decline of the English language at the global level in Greater Montreal. And so this is our indicator that is important for us. The decline of French, we have to stop it, and we have to reverse the trend. And different ministries are being contributing to that effort. And of course, immigration is part of it, because there are many non-Francophones that are coming to Quebec. And when it comes to family reunification, we've seen that around 52% of them talk French. And so there's a need for them to learn French, because otherwise it will put a greater pressure on the French language.
Let's just wrap up with your relationship with Mark Miller. How is that relationship, and is there room for growth?
Yeah, there is room for growth. We've kept our communication open. For people who are looking at the different tweets that were published, it may seem that we do not have any other type of communication, but that's not the case. We've talked last week, for example, almost 1 hour, and previous week also we've talked again, a long call, and we've had meetings. Of course, there are tensions, but we get to talk together and to exchange ideas and to identify possible solutions. It has to be the case because, it's a ministry that is managed both by federal government and Quebec government, so we need to work together. And we are not the only one who are working together when it comes to immigration. I also talked with Minister Pablo Rodriguez, and my colleague Éric Girard is talking to Chrystia Freeland, and Premier Legault will be talking to Prime Minister Trudeau in the coming weeks. They will have a meeting. So everyone is putting an effort in order to make sure that we get some solutions being implemented, and we've had some of them. When it comes to Roxham Road, for example, we've managed to have the Roxham Road being closed last year through that third safe country agreement. We've also managed to have the federal government distribute the asylum seekers among other provinces in Canada, and we're still waiting for them to do the same thing with the asylum seekers that are coming through the airport, because it will reduce the pressure that is put on Quebec. Should it be the housing system, the financial, last resort financial help, or francization?
Well, Madame Fréchette, it's very clear that you have won your fair share of arguments with this government. I want to thank you so much. Merci beaucoup, et à la prochaine.
Thank you.
Christine Fréchette is Quebec's immigration minister.